Well, things are not standing still in our world. Many things are happening. Oh, by the way, before we actually dive into our subject matter today, my daughter Janet tells me that for some reason we've come up with one spot available on our tour leaving for Israel and the Mediterranean Sea cruise on May the 2nd. If you're out there and you wanted to go, now we've only got one. So if you're out there and you want to go, we need to hear from you today. Not tomorrow, today. So if you're interested, call 1-800-INTIME, ask to speak to Jana or to someone about the tour. Thank you so much. Also, let me remind you that Saturday evening I will be in Spokane, Washington at the Red Lion Hotel at the Park, 300 West North River Drive in Spokane. That will be at 6 p.m. It's going to be a great time. I've got very, very critical and important things to talk to you about at that meeting. So make plans to be there. That's the 14th, this coming Saturday evening, and it's going to be very interesting, all of the things that are happening right now. Now, there are several different fronts on which news is breaking, but I suppose the leading one is concerning the Middle East peace process. The quartet has met again, and they are issuing calls for all sides to exercise restraint, for the Palestinians to fight against any violence, for the Israelis to fight against any violence from the settlements. It was pretty much a nondescript statement that was issued by the quartet. Nevertheless, it has produced some movement because several things are happening right now. Mr. Salam Fayyad, who is the prime minister of the Palestinians, is scheduled to meet immediately after Passover with Prime Minister Netanyahu and to present to him a letter that Mahmoud Abbas is giving to Netanyahu 30 days to respond. And if he does not respond properly, then Abbas says, I'm going back to the UN Security Council and once again request statehood. Well, Netanyahu has already been thinking ahead, and he's ready to respond. He says, I think we should upgrade the talks. Instead of working through our special envoys and our secretaries of states, he said, why don't just Mr. Abbas and myself sit down face to face? We'll cut through all the red tape, and in a very short time, we could solve all the issues if he will do that. So, seeing this offensive by Abbas coming, trying to rally world opinion to pressure Israel to do what they want to do. Now, here's what Abbas is saying. Before we come back to the peace talks, we want you to commit to withdraw to 1967 borders, and we want you to commit to Jerusalem as our capital. Well, that's called negotiating before you negotiate, right? I mean, these are the two big issues here, the borders and also the status of Jerusalem. So he's saying before we ever come back to the table, this is what we want. If we don't get it as a pre-commitment from you, we want to get it from the international community. Well, Netanyahu, realizing the dangers, the minefields that are out there, and that any time world opinion could swing against the nation of Israel, which he wants to prevent, he is offering an alternative proposal. Look, let's quit playing footsie with this issue. Let's grab it by the throat. Let's deal with it. Come and sit down and let's pound out a final agreement. Now, these are the types of things of which world-changing, historic events are made. Netanyahu already says, I am the one that will bring peace to Israel. Is he? I don't know. However, this is what Netanyahu is offering, and Mr. Abbas, if he refuses, is going to be sending a message to the world. Well, I'm either afraid to sit down and talk to Netanyahu face-to-face, or else I really don't want peace. I really want my way or the highway. Well, that's what's going on here. Now, before we go to the phones today, let me quickly tell you where all this is headed. We know in advance where it's headed because the prophecies tell us. Number one, is there going to be a peace agreement? Yes, there is. And when that peace agreement is struck, I'm talking about the particular one prophesied in the Bible, when it is struck, it will set the clock ticking to the final 7 years to Armageddon. When that agreement starts, the Bible prophesies there will be 7 years left until Armageddon, and it's at Armageddon, now listen carefully, that Jesus Christ personally will show up. He will personally, physically come to this earth 7 years from the time they get this peace agreement. Now, this is interesting because the quartet reiterated just today in the news that they wanted a final agreement by December of this year. So we're talking about 8 months from right now. They want this agreement. Well, are they going to get it? Not at the rate things are going, but if Abbas would meet the Netanyahu challenge and say, okay, close the door, let's sit down together and start talking heart to heart. Now, I know the Israelis want a peace agreement. Some people think that the Palestinians don't want a peace agreement. And the reason they think that is because Ehud Barak offered almost everything they're asking for right now and was turned down in the year 2000. And then Ehud Olmert did the same thing and was turned down. And you can read this in the memoirs of Condoleezza Rice. And he also was turned down by Mahmoud Abbas. So there's real question as to whether the Palestinians really want peace or if they're using peace as a weapon to gain more and more territory and then finally be able to drive Israel into the sea. Now, there are some people in Israel that probably don't want peace with the Palestinians either because they believe that Israel should have all the promised land as it is defined in the Bible, as it was declared by Almighty God. So, yes, there are people on both extremes. If you want to call that extreme, believe in the Bible. Some people certainly call that extreme. I believe we should all believe the Bible. Nevertheless, this is what we're facing right now. So, number one, there's going to be a peace agreement. Number two, the West Bank, the area called Judea, Samaria by the Israelis, is going to end up being Palestinian territory. Jews that don't want to leave there will be left there to live as a political minority under Palestinian control, just like there are Palestinians under Israeli control right now. And I said just like there are. It won't turn out just like that. It's going to turn out in terrible slaughter. Nevertheless, it is going to happen. The West Bank is going to be placed under Palestinian control. However, the Temple Mount is going to be internationalized. It's going to be placed under a sharing arrangement under international control, and the Jews will actually build their temple. The Bible explicitly says during the first 3.5 years, they will build their temple. So if this agreement were struck by December of 2012, in the next 3.5 years, you're going to see a temple built, and you're going to see animal sacrifices resumed in that temple. And then, predictably, you're going to see the animal sacrifices stopped, and they will be stopped by the Antichrist himself. Well, shortly thereafter will come the revelation of the Antichrist, and that will trigger the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. Now, somewhere in this whole mix, there's going to be World War III, either before the peace agreement starts. And, oh, by the way, Netanyahu was asked by Obama, apparently, to commit to not attacking Iran before the presidential election of November. And apparently Netanyahu said, I can't do that because by then Iran will be in a situation of immunity. They will have moved their nuclear production facilities underground where we can't get to them. They're in the process of trying to do that right now. I will not promise you until after the elections. However, I will promise you that it will be at least late fall. People now are talking a lot about October. Well, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but that is a critical thing that we should be thinking about, because if Israel should strike against Iran, let's say September, October, like has been indicated, maybe I should actually read that to you, because that's not a little piece of news. That's a huge piece of news. Here it is. Israeli newspaper Mariv reported Tuesday, that would be yesterday, of course, that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refused to commit before U.S. President Barack Obama that Israel would not attack Iran before the U.S. presidential elections. Netanyahu agreed to wait with an Israeli military move only until the early fall season. Then the writer went on to speculate that that could well mean October. Netanyahu thinks that after the fall season, the nuclear installations in Iran will enter the zone of immunity from Israeli attacks, and Israel will no longer have the independent option of defending itself militarily on its own. That comes from Israel National News. So these are some of the things that are festering right now. Oh, by the way, we're going to be taking your calls on the program today. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and go to Gideon. He's calling from Missouri right now. Gideon, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I was wondering, the other day I read that the word Catholic meant universal. I was wondering if the Catholic Church would be the universal one world religion.
Well, the word Catholic does mean universal. Now, Roman Catholic Church means, of course, Roman Universal Church. The Roman Catholic Church is going to be part of the one world religion, no doubt about that. The thing that everybody should know is that the Protestants are going to participate as well. The Bible explicitly teaches that both Catholics and Protestants are going to be in alliance with the Antichrist during the reign of the Antichrist, and the only people that will be saved are those that come out of those apostate religions. And the reason this is happening is because both Catholics and Protestants have left biblical Christianity and moved into the present state of apostasy that's predicted in the Bible. That's part of the great falling away. But anyway, Revelation 18:4 says, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." So it's going to be both Catholic and Protestant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gideon. And I know those are tough words to say, and I don't say those irresponsibly. I know for positive that's what's going to happen. The prophecies are crystal clear about that. And we have a DVD, and it's a tough DVD. But if you question what I have just said to you, I urge you to get it. It's called True Christianity versus False Christianity. That's all you have to ask for. True Christianity versus False Christianity. The number to call is 1-800-END-TIME. Now, I warn you, if you don't love the truth with all your heart, don't order that tape. It'll make you mad. You'll be mad at me. I don't want you mad at me. But the number is 800-END-TIME.